The internet did not just break, it exploded. In the last 48 hours, a whisper turned into a scream, a rumor turned into a wildfire, and one of the most polished women in celebrity culture allegedly found herself stripped of the narrative she spent decades controlling. What started as a casual podcast moment has now detonated into what insiders are calling the messiest, most humiliating exposure of the year, and the receipts are still dropping. Because behind the designer gowns, behind the billionaire circles, behind the carefully curated image of power and poise, there was a secret arrangement no one was supposed to talk about. Until now. And once he spoke, there was no taking it back. Late night phone calls, private jets, cash trails that don't add up, screenshots that weren't meant to leak, a voice note that allegedly made an entire room go silent, and one brutally blunt confession that reframed everything, not as a love story, not as a heartbreak, but as something far colder. Sources are claiming this wasn't romance, it was convenience. It wasn't passion, it was control. And when the man at the center of it all finally explained why he walked away, why he allegedly used the word smashed instead of dated, the fallout was instant and savage. Friends vanished. Allies went quiet. Twitter turned into a digital firing squad. Old interviews suddenly hit different. And one woman, once seen as untouchable, is now being dragged through a narrative she cannot escape. And here's the most terrifying part: the worst revelation hasn't even been said out loud yet. The moment the clip hit the timeline, everything shifted. What was supposed to be a quiet flex of independence suddenly became the spark that lit a 10-year secret on fire. Because when Kimora Lee Simmons spoke about being alone and doing everything herself, people didn't just listen, they started digging. And what they allegedly found sent shockwaves through celebrity circles that still haven't settled. Within hours, anonymous accounts began posting cryptic tweets. "She's lying. Ask Birdman. Check the dates." At first, fans brushed it off as trolls chasing clout, but then screenshots started surfacing. Old captions. Deleted Instagram comments. A resurfaced interview where a certain cash money mogul laughed a little too hard when her name came up. And suddenly, a rumor that had been whispered behind velvet ropes for years was now screaming in all caps across the internet. Insiders claim the relationship wasn't new information, it was just buried. Carefully, expensively. Allegedly stretching back to the early 2000s, long before anyone thought to question timelines. According to multiple so-called insiders, Birdman wasn't just a friend or a supporter. They say he was a fixture, a constant, a man who showed up when others disappeared, not out of love, but out of leverage. One leaked DM, posted and deleted within minutes, claimed, "She knew exactly what he was good for, and he knew exactly what she wanted." Another alleged source dropped a voice note transcript that instantly went viral, describing late-night arguments on a private jet where money, not feelings, was the real currency. No romance, no fairy tale, just a transactional arrangement hidden behind luxury and silence. And that's when things turned ugly. Because as the narrative spiraled, Birdman allegedly decided to stop protecting the myth. A longtime associate told a blogger that he was tired of being rewritten as the villain in someone else's story. That's when the bombshell quote allegedly leaked, a line so crude, so dismissive, that fans immediately split into camps. According to the leak, Birdman told someone close to him, "I smashed because it was easy. I left because it wasn't worth the noise." Those words hit like a slap. Twitter erupted. Kimora's name trended worldwide within minutes. Some fans rushed to defend her, calling it misogyny, calling it disrespect. Others weren't so forgiving. They started pulling receipts. Old photos of her attending cash money events just as a guest. Posts where Birdman praised her as solid but never affectionate. A pattern that suddenly looked less like love and more like convenience. Then came the confrontation rumors. Multiple outlets reported that Kimora allegedly reached out directly after the quote leaked, furious, blindsided, demanding a retraction. One insider claims she screamed that he owed her loyalty. Another says Birdman laughed and reminded her there was never a contract, emotional or otherwise. Allegedly, the call ended with her hanging up mid-sentence, followed by a block that friends say was nuclear. And just when it couldn't get messier, another name entered the chat. Because people started asking the question no one wanted to answer. Where does Toni Braxton fit into this timeline? Fans noticed the overlap immediately. Screenshots of alleged dates. Whispers that Birdman was still financially entangled with Kimora, even while publicly committing to Toni. A blind item claimed he once left a wedding-related meeting to handle something for Kimora, a claim that sent Toni's fanbase into full meltdown. TikTok creators stitched videos frame by frame, dissecting body language, pausing interviews, highlighting moments that now felt sinister. One viral clip showed Tony praising Birdman as loyal while the caption read, "If only she knew." Another creator claimed an auntie in the industry, warned Tony years ago, but she didn't listen. The chaos spread faster than anyone could control. Meanwhile, Kimora's silence became louder than any statement. No denial, no clarification, just carefully curated posts that suddenly felt defensive. Quotes about strength, about betrayal, about being underestimated. Fans read between every line, convinced each caption was aimed directly at Birdman. And then, as if the universe wanted maximum damage, Russell Simmons resurfaced in the discourse. Old interviews where he accused Kimora of manipulation suddenly went viral again. People began stitching his words with the new allegations, painting a picture that suggested a pattern instead of an isolated incident. Commentators whispered that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't about men abandoning her, but about men walking away once the curtain slipped. An alleged insider doubled down late one night, claiming Birdman didn't just leave, he exposed her to people she begged him not to. That he allegedly warned her years ago, "If this ever turns public, I won't protect you." And now, with blogs circling and narratives collapsing, that warning felt prophetic. But the most chilling claim came from a post that vanished within 10 minutes. It alleged that Birdman had receipts, not screenshots, recordings, conversations that, if released, would reframe everything people thought they knew. Conversations where Kimora allegedly acknowledged the arrangement for what it was. Conversations where she allegedly admitted staying because walking away would mean losing more than pride. And according to that same post, Birdman wasn't done talking. Because if the first leak was humiliating, the next one was supposed to be devastating. And the people closest to Kimora were already panicking behind the scenes. By the next morning, the tone shifted from gossip to panic. This wasn't just speculation anymore, it was damage control. Phones were ringing off the hook, PR teams were allegedly scrambling, and people who hadn't spoken in years suddenly just wanted to check in. Because behind the scenes, word had spread that Birdman wasn't bluffing. He was irritated, he felt rewritten. And according to two separate so-called insiders, he had decided to stop playing silent. What leaked next didn't come from a blog. It came from a burner account that posted 3 screenshots and a chilling caption. She said never save these. He did. The images were grainy, allegedly taken from an old phone, showing messages that painted a very different dynamic than the polished narrative fans were used to. One message read, "You know what this is, don't act brand new now." Another reply, allegedly from Kimora, said, "Just don't embarrass me, please." That word, embarrass, set the internet on fire. Commentary channels went into overdrive. Former fans started flipping in real time. They dissected the tone, the language, the timing. This didn't look like a woman in love. It looked like someone negotiating exposure. And as more alleged insiders began whispering, a darker storyline emerged. That Kimora didn't lose Birdman because he found someone else. She lost him because he felt used, controlled, and publicly erased. A source claiming to be close to Birdman alleged that the breaking point came during a private argument after Kimora's viral podcast comments. According to that account, Birdman felt like he was being lumped in with absent men, when, in his mind, he had allegedly been present in ways no one ever acknowledged. Financially, logistically, quietly, the source claims he snapped and said, "Don't rewrite history like I wasn't there when nobody else was." And that's when the gloves came off. The same source alleges Kimora responded by threatening to expose him if he ever told his side. That threat, allegedly, was the moment Birdman decided he no longer cared about keeping secrets. Friends say he felt cornered, painted as disposable, while being expected to stay silent forever. And silence, according to people who know him, is something he resents more than disrespect. Social media sensed blood in the water. Old interviews resurfaced where Kimora spoke about knowing how to keep men loyal. Tweets from years ago suddenly looked incriminating. Even clips from her reality show were reanalyzed, with fans pointing out moments where she allegedly bragged about having powerful men on call. TikTok creators labeled it the long con. Twitter called it soft humiliation. Instagram comment sections turned brutal overnight. Then came the alleged confrontation that everyone is still whispering about. Multiple sources claim Kimora and Birdman crossed paths at a private event just days after the leak. No cameras, no phones allowed. But people who were there say the tension was suffocating. According to one attendee, Kimura confronted him near a hallway, voice shaking but controlled, accusing him of betrayal. Birdman, they claim, didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "You embarrassed yourself first." That sentence alone, according to the insider, made her freeze. Moments later, she allegedly broke down in tears, accusing him of trying to destroy her legacy. Witnesses say Birdman walked away without responding. And that walkaway is now being described as the real humiliation. Not the rumors, not the blogs, but the public indifference of a man who once answered every call. Meanwhile, the Toni Braxton angle kept growing darker. Fans noticed Toni's sudden silence online. Posts slowed. Comments were disabled. A scheduled appearance was quietly canceled. One radio host claimed off-air that Toni was aware of more than people think and that the reconciliation wasn't as solid as it appeared. Allegedly, someone close to Toni confronted Birdman with the screenshots, and his response was not denial, it was exhaustion. According to that leak, he said, "That's old. I'm tired of paying for old stories." That word, paying, reignited everything. Commentators speculated wildly about financial ties that never fully ended, alleged monthly transfers, emergency favors, a lifestyle that didn't match public explanations. A blogger claimed Kimura had leaned on Birdman more than once during moments she didn't want associated with her brand. Whether true or not, the rumor stuck, and reputations began cracking under the weight of implication. Kimura finally responded, sort of. She didn't name names, she didn't deny specifics. Instead, she posted a long message about misogyny, about men weaponizing private moments, about women being punished for surviving. Some applauded her, others saw it as deflection. The comments were ruthless. Address the receipts. Tell the whole story. Why won't you say his name? And then Birdman allegedly did the unthinkable. A close associate claimed he was considering releasing audio, not to blogs, but to someone neutral. A conversation that would allegedly show the relationship exactly as it was. Negotiated, conditional, and never exclusive. The associate claimed Birdman said, "I won't protect a lie that makes me look stupid." As word of that possibility spread, Kimura's inner circle reportedly went into crisis mode. Emergency meetings, lawyers involved. Old friends asked to publicly defend her, some refusing, others suddenly unavailable. One insider said the fear wasn't just embarrassment. It was exposure of a pattern that could rewrite decades of perception. And just when people thought the story had peaked, a final rumor dropped like a grenade. According to a late-night post from an account that has since vanished, the recording wasn't about love or money at all. It was about leverage, about silence, about what happens when two powerful people agree to keep each other's secrets until one decides the deal is over. And if that audio ever sees daylight, insiders say, this won't look like gossip anymore. It'll look like a collapse. By the time dawn broke, the story had stopped feeling like scandal and started feeling like a slow-motion implosion. People weren't arguing about whether the leaks were real anymore. They were arguing about why everything lined up too cleanly to ignore. Every denial felt rehearsed. Every silence felt strategic. And every old clip that resurfaced made the present look uglier. The industry chatter turned ruthless. Executives, stylists, former friends, people who once praised Kimora Lee Simmons in private were suddenly leaking context. One claimed she'd always moved with backups. Another said she treated relationships like insurance policies. A third went even further, alleging Kimora once bragged that no matter what happened publicly, there was always someone powerful on standby. Whether true or not, the narrative was no longer in her control, and that was the real damage. Then came the audio rumor. Not a full leak, just enough description to terrify. According to multiple gossip accounts, the recording allegedly captures Kimura speaking calmly, not emotionally, about maintaining discretion, about keeping arrangements quiet for optics, about how exposure would hurt her brand more than it would ever hurt him. The most explosive detail? A line where she allegedly says, "You know I can't afford for this to look real." When that phrase hit Twitter, it detonated. Fans who once defended her flipped instantly. So it was fake. So the victim narrative was a strategy. So all that independence talk was branding. Threads hit hundreds of thousands of likes within hours. Reaction videos poured in, faces frozen in disbelief. Commentators didn't even have to exaggerate. The implication alone was devastating. And Birdman? According to insiders, he didn't celebrate. He withdrew. People close to Birdman say he stopped answering calls, stopped engaging with blogs, stopped correcting anything. That silence, ironically, became the loudest confirmation. One associate claimed he said, "I already said enough." Let them connect it themselves. Another said he felt relief, like he'd finally stepped out of a role he never wanted in the first place. But the collateral damage kept spreading. Toni Braxton's name became unavoidable. Fans started demanding answers she never agreed to give. Old interviews where she described loyalty were recontextualized as tragic. Supporters flooded her comments with sympathy. Critics accused her of ignoring red flags for comfort. A radio personality hinted that Toni had confronted Birdman privately and was processing things in her own way. No statement followed, no clarification. Just quiet, and sometimes quiet is the loudest verdict of all. Meanwhile, Kimora's camp tried one last pivot. A source close to her claimed the entire situation was being weaponized by bitter men, that she was being punished for her success, that this was about jealousy, not truth. But the problem was timing, because right as that narrative rolled out, another alleged receipt surfaced, a screenshot showing Kimora asking someone to kill a story before it hits. No context, no verification, but enough to keep the fire burning. Industry insiders started distancing themselves publicly. Invitations dried up, collaborations went quiet. The woman once seen as untouchable suddenly felt isolated. Not canceled, just avoided. And in celebrity culture, avoidance is often worse than outrage. Late one night, a final whisper made the rounds. An anonymous post claimed Birdman had decided not to release the audio, not because he was protecting her, but because he didn't need to. According to the post, he believed the narrative collapse was already complete. That the humiliation wasn't in the tape, it was in the realization that the image everyone bought into might never have been real. If true, that decision alone redefined everything. Because humiliation doesn't always come from exposure. Sometimes it comes from being left to sit in the consequences while the other person walks away untouched. And insiders say that's what hurt Kimora most, not that Birdman spoke, but that after he spoke, he stopped caring whether anyone listened. By the end of the week, the internet had moved on to its next obsession. But the damage didn't disappear. It settled, it lingered. It rewrote how people remembered old stories, old relationships, old power dynamics. And for the first time in a very long time, Kimora wasn't the one narrating the ending. She was reacting to it, and that may be the most brutal twist of all. Now listen, if you made it this far, you already know this isn't just gossip. This is the kind of story that keeps changing after you stop watching. Details resurface, clips reappear, insiders get brave, and the people who stay quiet today often speak tomorrow. If you leave now, you'll miss the update that flips the entire narrative again, because these stories never end cleanly. So here's what you need to do right now. Like this video, because that's how you tell the algorithm you want the uncensored stories, not the watered-down ones. Drop a comment, not just an emoji, but your real take, because the comment section is where the next clue always appears first. And subscribe with notifications on, because when the next leak hits, it won't wait for you to catch up. You don't want to be the person hearing about this secondhand when everyone else already knows. You don't want to miss the moment the silence breaks again. Stay tapped in, stay watching, because in celebrity culture, the truth doesn't disappear, it just waits for the right time to explode. If you're still here, understand this, you're already deeper than most people. This isn't the kind of story you casually scroll past and forget. This is the kind of mess that keeps evolving, the kind where one late-night post, one deleted clip, one accidental, live moment can flip everything you think you know. And when that happens, the people who weren't paying attention will be scrambling to catch up. Do not be one of them. Right now is the moment where lines are drawn. Either you stay locked in, or you miss the next bombshell when it drops without warning. Because trust this, silence in celebrity culture never lasts. Somebody always talks, somebody always slips. And when they do, it won't be explained politely on the evening news. It'll hit fast, messy, and unfiltered. So hit like right now. That's not just support, that's you telling the algorithm you want the raw stories they don't push to everyone else. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation isn't finished, and the real tea always shows up where people feel bold enough to speak. And most importantly, subscribe and turn notifications all the way on, because the next update won't wait for you, won't come with context, and definitely won't be gentle. Missing the next chapter means letting someone else control the narrative you hear later. Staying tapped in means you see it unfold in real time, no edits, no spin, no cleanup. And in stories like this, timing is everything. Stay close, stay watching, because the calm you see right now, it never lasts.